All right, now we are on to rendering or shading, doing all the shading on our dollar bill. Um, there's some little tips I want to give you. I'm not going to do lots of work on this, but I'll just do a little bit and show you a couple things. First of all, your phone, if you took pictures with your phone, is going to be a really good resource, and that's what I've been using a lot. Look how much clearer. So here's my photo that we printed at school. Look how much clearer that is and trying to look at that. So I've been referring to my phone for a lot of things. And also, what I've been doing is going from two different photographs. I accidentally printed the wrong one, but it's very similar in the shape of it, but the lighting is different. If you notice, this side right here is lighter than that, and it's the opposite here. So I drew from this one initially, but there are a few things that I like better. In my pre-sketch, I drew a little bit more of Abraham Lincoln's face. That's here. But the lighting is the wrong one. No big deal. I also like this little extra shadow right in here. So I'm going to use a black colored pencil inside that to get that extra shadow because as you see, whoop, it's the other one, that double shadow thing, that little double shadow is kind of happening in other areas too. So I think it'll all work out pretty well. So just know that I've been doing that a lot. Look how big you can get into some of the details. All right, so speaking of details, things like that almost that spider web look up there. If I go to my phone, you can really see what it's like, but we have to fake that in. And what you really need to do, don't practice on your final. Okay, what you must do is take your pre-sketch. Here's my pre-sketch. And I went up here and did a little practice. Okay, so I kind of noticed, and I'll do this really fast. I kind of noticed there's a main little white vein that runs through. And I noticed that there's a little, almost like a little cast shadow underneath each one of those. And you can do this in the way that you see fit. You don't have to do it just like I'm doing it. Then I noticed there's some little like spider web things. So I'm not going to draw the spider web. I'm just going to make some little random shapes. And let me even get closer. Make sure it's in focus. Little random little triangular shapes and things like that to allow the white of the paper to show through. So it kind of has a feel of those of the little white fine lines, and I'm not worried about making them in the exact same shape. Then I can shade over the top of them because they're generally a little bit darker, and especially if they're on the darker side of the bill. So do a little practice like that, and you can see how mine is working out. So over on the shaded side where the fold is, I had to shade a little darker. You can see that helps to have this one right next to it. That crease really has that light strip, so we have to make sure to pay attention to all that. All this shading out here and here to get the two different values really is holding the pencil pretty far back. I wasn't in here, and I want to make sure it's nice and soft. So the way you shade is really important, that it's evenly toned. And what we can do with this drawing is go ahead and use softly a blending stick, really softly, just enough to barely smooth it out. Okay, if you press hard, you're going to see these little, those smudgy marks. It's going to just have a different feel. You should never be able to hear that happen. So let's make sure that we do that very softly. Okay, as you can see, if you haven't yet, I have used my own little words. It says, this is an Art 3 assignment 2022. I signed it. I put Franklin High School right down there. You can do that kind of stuff or not is completely up to you. Okay, or you can try to replicate what's going on here, but you don't have to. You can do what's called Greeking it in. So let me get on my pre-sketch here. Greeking it in, if I wanted to do something that looked like it was being written right there, Greeking it in is just faking in some handwriting and a signature. That's all it is. It can be that fast. Okay, it's called Greeking it in, and that's totally cool. And I'm going to have to do that inside this seal right here. Okay, I've already kind of done it with that little eagle, and I see some stripes down here. So I'm just gonna, whoops, wrong pencil. So most of my work is being done with a 3B, and a 3B gets pretty dark. The 6B gets even darker, and I'm going to suggest, but not, you don't have to, but you can use a black colored pencil to get into some of the really dark parts, and that's what I've been doing. Right down here is a little bit of black colored pencil to get that double shadow. Those little black shadows around the letters, same thing. I'm using black colored pencil on top of the 3B pencil. So now watch how I'm just going to kind of, let me get that right there. I'm just going to kind of fake in these stripes. I'm not going to worry about getting the same number of stripes. There's a couple little leaves and things over on around the underside and over here. So I'm just going to, if I have a little bit of room, just make a couple little marks and just fake in a little shape right there. Okay. This says United States Federal Reserve System. I'm not going to try to draw that. So what I can do though, however, is just kind of tell myself where some words are. And I'm even going to make one less word. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to color in here nice and dark. I can color in between the words nice and dark. And then I can do kind of a negative space Greeking in. So it's kind of like working around these letters up there, but watch this. I'm not even going to really try. I'm just going to act like there's some letters here. And just kind of faked it in right there. Since there is a little bit of shading over on this side of the bill, I'm going to just barely do that. That's all there is to it. So I'll do one more time. I can say maybe there's some kind of letter there, and it kind of loops around and just kind of leave the white of the paper to show through. That's all you have to do for that. Okay. There's an extra line around this, so I'll carefully, I've been using a cover sheet a lot, as carefully as I can, kind of do that extra line that goes all the way around. What else did I want to show you? When you get to the face, just do your best. Okay, you don't have to draw those little lines, those little engraving lines. You can just do some basic shading. Try not to get into too much detail because it's pretty darn small. And whatever you do, you guys, I can't stress enough how important it is to practice on your pre-sketch. I even practiced that little pattern that runs down the edge of this $5 bill right there. And I looked at it on my phone and kind of really saw what it was, because in my printout, I can kind of tell what is going on, but on the phone, it made it much better. All right, so hopefully that works for you. And, oh, I know what else I was going to tell you. Remember, you have a gummy eraser. Okay, I had to go in and pull out a little bit of graphite off of these letters. They just weren't standing out enough for me. So I went in and did that. If I accidentally went too dark on that crease, I could make a little chisel edge and just barely pull off a little bit. If I accidentally go a little bit too dark in a spot, I can just kind of tack it, then maybe do a little touch up. All right, I hope that gives you some tips to work on, and I'll get a little bit of this done and have it on a slideshow. There you go.